Chapter 1. The setup. Normal life. Small cracks appear. The wrench slipped in my hand, and a bead of cold water sprayed against my forearm. I muttered a curse under my breath, leaning back on the tiled floor of the bathroom. The house was quiet except for the steady drip, drip, drip from the pipe I'd been working on for the last 40 minutes. A Saturday night, and instead of being out or relaxing with my wife, I was on my knees under the sink, trying to save us from another plumbing bill. That was me, always the fixer, always the one who held things together. I tightened the joint, listening to the satisfying creak of metal sealing into place. The drip slowed, then stopped. For a second, I just sat there, catching my breath and staring at my reflection in the shiny chrome. A guy in his early 40s, calloused hands, hair starting to gray at the sides, wearing an old t-shirt smeared with grease. I used to think my wife admired that about me, the way I took care of things without complaint. The steady rock. But lately, I wasn't so sure. The sound of high heels clicking across the hardwood floor drew my attention. My wife, Emily, appeared in the doorway, dressed in a silk blouse I hadn't seen before, her makeup fresh like she was headed somewhere, not like she'd been home all day. She leaned on the frame with her arms crossed, her phone in one hand, the glow from the screen lighting up her face. "Still working on that pipe?" she asked, her tone light, but carrying that edge I'd started noticing more often. "Almost done," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "Saved us a couple $100 calling a plumber." She hummed non-committally, eyes still on her phone. "You going out?" I asked, glancing at her blouse. Emily didn't look up. "Just drinks with the girls. You know, my sanity night." The words hit harder than she probably intended. My sanity night. Like I was the opposite of that. Like being home with me was something to escape from. I forced a smile. "Didn't realize you had plans tonight." "It was last minute," she said quickly, tapping at her phone. I caught the faintest smirk before she locked the screen and slid into her purse. "Don't wait up, okay?" I nodded, but inside something twisted. Later, when the pipe was finally fixed and the tools were put away, I walked into the kitchen. On the counter sat a half-empty glass of wine and her lipstick-stained napkin. Emily never used to drink before going out. She used to laugh at the idea, saying she liked being in control. Now, it seemed like she needed that pre-game buzz before she could face her friends. I leaned against the counter, staring at the napkin, trying to shake off the unease. She was my wife, the woman I'd built a life with, the mother of my daughter. I had no reason not to trust her, except the little things that kept adding up. The constant buzzing of her phone late at night. The way she tilted the screen away from me, almost instinctively. The sudden obsession with new clothes, new perfume. And that phrase she used now, over and over. Girls' night. I walked into the living room and collapsed on the couch. The TV glowed, but I wasn't watching. My mind was somewhere else, back to when we first met. Emily used to light up when I came home from work, asking about my day, pressing close to me like she couldn't get enough. Somewhere along the years, that warmth had thinned out. Now her laughter came easier with others than with me. The door clicked shut, breaking my thoughts. I hadn't even heard her leave. Around 10, I was still awake, the tools from earlier still scattered in the garage because I couldn't bring myself to put them away. I was thinking too much, wondering. My daughter, Kayla, padded downstairs, wearing her pajamas and rubbing her eyes. She was 17 now, sharp-eyed, too observant for her own good. "Mom went out again?" she asked, curling onto the couch beside me. "Yeah," I said softly. She sighed, hugging a pillow. "She's been out a lot lately." I didn't respond right away. I didn't want to put her in the middle of anything. But her words echoed the exact thought gnawing at me. Kayla looked at me, her voice barely above a whisper. "You okay, Dad?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and for a while we just sat there, the TV flickering in front of us while the house felt far too big, far too empty. It was past midnight when Emily came back. I heard the jingling of her keys before the door creaked open. I pretended to be asleep on the couch, though my eyes were barely shut. She laughed softly at something, maybe at a text she read, before slipping off her heels. The smell of perfume and alcohol followed her through the room. She didn't notice me. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. I stayed still, listening as she crept upstairs, her phone buzzing again in her hand. She giggled at whatever was on the screen, a kind of girlish laugh I hadn't heard from her in years. And for the first time, a thought I'd always shoved aside refused to leave me alone. Who was making her laugh like that? The next morning, Emily sat at the kitchen table, scrolling her phone while sipping coffee. Her sunglasses rested on the counter, though it was cloudy outside. I cracked eggs into the skillet, the hiss of butter filling the silence. "You were out late," I said, keeping my voice casual. She didn't look up. "Fun night." "Yeah, the girls are hilarious," she said, finally glancing at me. "You should have seen the waiter. He couldn't handle us." I smirked faintly. "No guys, right?" Her eyes lingered on mine a second too long, then she laughed. "Of course not. What kind of question is that?" I shrugged, flipping the eggs. "Just asking." She slid her phone face down on the table. "Don't start, okay? You always get paranoid for no reason." I bit back the urge to say more. Instead, I set the plate in front of her. "Thanks," she said flatly, stabbing at the eggs. We ate in silence, the tension thick as the clink of her fork against the plate. That day, I worked around the house. Fixed the loose door hinge, replaced a light bulb, cut the grass. Normal chores, but my mind wasn't on any of it. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected it to be her, explaining something, reassuring me. But it never was. When I came back inside, she was sitting on the couch, texting furiously, smiling at the screen. She looked up, caught me watching, and quickly set her phone down. "What?" she snapped. "Nothing," I said. "Then stop staring at me like that." I opened my mouth to answer, but no words came. I just walked upstairs, the silence between us louder than any argument. That night, lying in bed beside her, I stared at the ceiling while she typed quietly on her phone. The glow lit up her face, her lips curved in a private smile. I turned away, closing my eyes. It's just stress. It's just me overthinking. But deep down, I knew better. Chapter 2, Girls' Night Out. The sun was just starting to dip when I heard the clatter of hangers in our bedroom closet. I'd been downstairs in the garage, trying to sand down a piece of wood for a cabinet project, when Emily's voice floated down the stairs. "Honey, don't make dinner for me tonight." I wiped the sawdust from my arms and walked up. The bedroom smelled faintly of her new perfume, the one she claimed she bought on sale, though I knew damn well it wasn't cheap. She stood in front of the full-length mirror, holding two dresses against her frame. One red, one black, both tighter than anything I remembered her wearing in years. "What's going on?" I asked. She didn't turn to look at me. "Girls' night out." I leaned on the doorframe. "Again." She rolled her eyes like a teenager caught sneaking out. "Yes, again. You act like I'm committing a crime just because I want to see my friends." "That's not what I said." She lifted the red dress against her body, cocked her head, and smirked at her reflection. Then she glanced at me. "Well, you're giving me that look." "What look?" "The suspicious husband look." She gave a mocking imitation of me, frowning, arms crossed. "Relax, it's just us girls. No guys allowed." I bit the inside of my cheek. "I didn't say there would be." "You didn't have to," she shot back, already shimmying into the red dress. It clung to her curves, cut low in the front, high at the hem. For a moment, I just stood there, stunned. She used to wear sweatpants around the house, hair up in a bun. Now she looked like she was about to walk into a nightclub. "You think that's a little much?" I asked carefully. Emily smirked, turning to smooth the dress over her hips. "Much? You mean too good for Applebee's?" She winked. "I can't help it if I look good, babe." "That's not what I meant," I said slowly. She grabbed her heels from the closet floor, sliding them on with practiced ease. "Look, I'm not going to sit at some boring bar in mom jeans. My friends actually know how to have fun. You wouldn't get it." Her words landed sharper than I expected. "You wouldn't get it. Like fun wasn't something we could have anymore. Like I'd already been disqualified from her world." Before I could answer, Kayla's voice came from the hallway. "Mom, are you seriously wearing that?" Emily turned to face our daughter, hands on her hips. "What's wrong with it?" Kayla hesitated in the doorway, eyes flicking from her mom to me. "Nothing, just I don't know. You don't usually what?" Emily pressed, her tone teasing but edged. Kayla shook her head. "Forget it." She walked off, but not before giving me a quick, uneasy glance that said, "Dad, you see this too, right?" I sighed. She's just not used to it. None of you are, Emily said, spraying herself with another mist of perfume. Maybe that's the problem. Everyone wants me to stay the same boring wife, but I'm not dead yet. I rubbed my temples. No one said you were. Emily checked herself one last time in the mirror, then grabbed her purse. Don't wait up. Might be late. You'll be careful? She laughed. Oh my God, stop. I'm not a teenager sneaking out. I'll be fine. You can go fix something if you get lonely. The way she said it, sharp, cocky, stung more than I wanted to admit. Like my worth was reduced to tools and repairs. She kissed the air vaguely in my direction, then clicked her heels down the stairs. The front door shut a minute later, leaving the house eerily quiet. For a long time, I just stood in the bedroom, staring at the mirror she'd been admiring herself in. Her lipstick sat open on the dresser, a deep shade of crimson she hadn't worn since before Kayla was born. I sat on the edge of the bed, running a hand over my face. Part of me wanted to text her, ask where exactly they were going, who she was meeting. But another part of me, the tired, loyal part, kept repeating, trust her, trust her. Still, trust was harder when I kept hearing her voice in my head. You wouldn't get it. The evening stretched on slowly. I tried turning on the game, but the TV only made the house feel emptier. Kayla came downstairs with her laptop and plopped onto the other end of the couch. She went out again? She asked. Yeah, I said, trying to sound neutral. Kayla shrugged, but I noticed the way she bit her lip. She wanted to say more. Instead, she buried her attention in the screen. I tried to focus on the cabinet project. The garage smelled of sawdust and varnish as I worked the sander over the rough wood. The hum of the tool filled the silence, drowning out my thoughts for a while. But every time I paused, the quiet roared back. The image of her in that dress, laughing, brushing me off with that smirk, haunted me. Why dress like that for your girlfriends? I thought. Why put on perfume, heels, lipstick just for them? I shook the thought away, pressing harder with the sander. Don't go there. Don't assume. Still, doubt lingered like the smell of varnish, sharp, suffocating. Around 9, I made myself a sandwich and ate standing up in the kitchen. Kayla wandered in, hair pulled into a messy bun, and grabbed a soda from the fridge. Dad, she said quietly. Yeah. She hesitated, then shook her head. Nothing. Never mind. Kayla, I set the plate down. If something's on your mind, you can tell me. She fidgeted with the soda can. It's just, Mom's been different lately. You see it too, right? My chest tightened. I forced my voice calm. People change. She wants to go out more. Kayla studied me, like she knew I was leaving something unsaid. Then she shrugged and headed back upstairs. The hours dragged. I fixed the loose hinge on the pantry door, re-oiled the squeaky lock, even swept the garage. Anything to keep my hands busy, because if they weren't, my mind would run circles. I thought about the early years with Emily, about road trips with the windows down, her hair whipping in the wind, her laughter spilling into the air like it was meant just for me. She used to fall asleep on my shoulder after long drives, trusting me to carry her inside. Now she barely looked at me when she left the house. By midnight, I gave up pretending to be productive. I sat on the couch with the TV muted, staring at the clock. The house was too quiet, the shadows too long. Every set of headlights passing the window made me think it might be her, but they kept going. I rubbed my temples, exhaustion setting in. My phone lay silent on the table, no messages from her, no updates. Finally, I leaned back and closed my eyes, the weight of unease pressing down heavy. Chapter 3, The Return. The house was silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Midnight had come and gone, and I was still wide awake on the couch, the TV flickering muted colors across the dark living room. I wasn't even watching. My eyes were on the door. I told myself I wasn't worried. She was with her friends, just like she said. No guys allowed. She'd laughed earlier, dismissing my unease with a smirk. But that line kept circling back in my head, mocking me. It was after 2 when the sound finally came. The slow rattle of keys against the front lock. Then the door creaked open. I sat up straighter, heart thudding. The first thing I saw was my daughter. Kayla's face appeared in the dim glow of the hallway light, her expression tense. Her arm was hooked under her mother's shoulder, trying to steady her. Emily stumbled in behind her, heels clicking awkwardly on the hardwood. Shuh, Emily hissed, giggling at her own noise. You're too loud, Kay. Kayla shot me a look over her mother's shoulder, her eyes darting away almost immediately. Dad, she said quietly, struggling to hold Emily upright. Can you, help me? I was already on my feet. Crossing the room, I caught the heavy scent of alcohol and perfume clinging to Emily like a second skin. Not just a glass of wine. She was drenched in it, as if she'd spent the night swimming in liquor. Eh, I said, sliding my arm around her. I got her. Emily sagged against me, laughing again. Oh, there's my handyman, she slurred. You should have seen the looks tonight, babe. Heads turning all night. She drew out the words, giggling as though it were the funniest secret in the world. My jaw clenched. Let's just get you upstairs. Kayla let go, backing away. Her face was pale, her lips pressed tight like she was holding something back. We half-walked, half-dragged Emily to the couch. She collapsed onto it with a thud, throwing her head back and closing her eyes. Fun night? I asked flatly. Emily cracked one, eye-open and grinned. Oh, you wouldn't believe it. The jokes, the shots, Kayla's so uptight. Told her she's got to loosen up. She laughed again, her words tumbling together. No guys allowed, remember? Just us girls. Girls' rules. Our little secret. The way she emphasized secret made my stomach knot. I glanced at Kayla, but she avoided my eyes, staring instead at the floor. Emily fumbled for her purse, pulling out her phone. She clutched it tight against her chest like a lifeline. Even in her drunken haze, she didn't let it go. Emily, I said, lowering my voice, you need to put that away before you drop it. No, she whined, hugging it closer. This is mine. Mine. Can't let it break. Or you'll snoop. She gave me a sloppy grin, like she thought she'd made a clever joke. I swallowed hard, heat rising in my chest. Kayla shifted uneasily. Mom, maybe you should. I'm fine. Emily cut her off, trying to sit upright. The neckline of her dress slipped, and she yanked it back into place with a laugh. See? Totally fine. Just a little fun. Girls' night, baby. That's when I noticed it, her arm, bare under the sleeve of her dress. Faint marks. Not the kind you get from bumping into a table. Long, reddish smudges that looked disturbingly like fingers. My eyes narrowed. What happened to your arm? Emily glanced down lazily. Oh, that? Clumsy me. Fell into a chair. Or maybe the chair fell into me. She laughed at her own nonsense. But Kayla's head snapped up. For a split second, I saw something in her eyes, disgust, maybe or guilt. She quickly looked away again. Emily kicked off her heels, one bouncing across the floor. God, my feet are killing me. Worth it, though. You should have seen. She stopped herself, snickering, then muttered, Nope, not telling. It's a girl's thing. The perfume hit me again, stronger than before. Not the soft floral scent she'd worn when she left, but something sharper, muskier, almost masculine. And it was mixed with smoke. Not cigarette smoke. Emily hated cigarettes, but cigar smoke. Heavy, clinging. My chest tightened. Kayla started gathering the heels and the discarded purse. Her movements tense and hurried, like she couldn't get out of the room fast enough. Kayla, I said softly. She froze, then forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm gonna get Mom some water. She hurried into the kitchen. Emily rolled onto her side on the couch, curling around her phone. She whispered something to herself, a little laugh escaping, like she was replaying a private joke. I stood there, staring at her, every nerve in my body screaming that something was wrong. The perfume, the bruises, the phone clutched like it held her whole life, and the way my daughter couldn't look at me. Chapter 4, The Shower Incident. The hiss of water sprayed against the porcelain tub as I tightened the last joint under the faucet. It was the third leak in 2 weeks, and my knees ached from crouching on the tile. I wiped sweat from my forehead, muttering under my breath. Fixing things had become my refuge. The one place where a problem had a clear cause and a clear solution. Unlike everything else lately, the bathroom was humid, the smell of fresh sealant mixing with soap and mildew. I leaned back on my heels, twisting the wrench a final time. That's when the door flew open. Dad! Kayla stood there, her face pale, her voice urgent. She wasn't even looking at me. her eyes darting wildly past me toward the shower. I blinked, startled. Jesus, Kayla, you scared the hell out of me. We need to shower. Now, she blurted, pushing at the door as if she might knock it off its hinges. I frowned, still crouched on the floor. I just need a few more minutes. The pipe's almost— No, she snapped, stepping fully into the room. Her voice cracked, higher than usual. Dad, get out. Please. I stared at her, confused. She'd never spoken to me like that before. Her hands trembled at her sides, and she was breathing fast, like she'd just run a mile. What's going on? I asked carefully, standing up and wiping my hands on the rag. Why are you acting like this? Kayla shoved me, harder than I thought she could. I said get out. The force of it wasn't much, but it wasn't about strength. It was the desperation in her eyes that stopped me cold. Kayla, I said firmly, planting my feet. You don't talk to me like that. Tell me what's going on right now. She froze, her chest heaving. Her eyes flicked toward the door, then back to me. Her mouth opened, then shut again. For a moment, she looked like she was about to cry. She swallowed hard. I know it's sick, Dad, but that's what happened. My stomach dropped. What do you mean? She stepped toward the corner, where Emily's dress lay crumpled on the floor. My wife must have peeled it off before collapsing into bed, too drunk to care where it landed. Kayla snatched it up with shaking hands, her face twisted with disgust. Look, she yanked the dress wide open. The red fabric was wrinkled, but that wasn't what made my throat tighten. There were lipstick stains smeared across the neckline, not the shade Emily wore. A deep, unfamiliar burgundy. And the smell, God, the smell. Not just her perfume, but men's cologne, heavy and musky, embedded deep in the fabric. Kayla, my voice was hoarse. She kept going, her words tumbling out like she couldn't hold them anymore. I saw her, Dad, tonight, at the bar. She wasn't just with the girls. There was a guy. Kayla broke off, shaking her head violently. I shouldn't even have to say it, but it's true. I stared at the dress in her hands, my heart hammering. The world tilted, my grip on reality slipping with each second. Kayla's eyes filled with tears, but she forced her chin up. I know it's sick, but that's what happened. She turned the dress inside out, showing the faintest bruise-shaped smears along the sides. Fingerprints pressed into the fabric. Evidence. Proof. My face froze in shock. Chapter 5, The Shock. I couldn't move. My feet felt like they were bolted to the tile. The dress hung limply in Kayla's hands, but its weight pressed on my chest like a boulder. The lipstick stains, the bruised fingerprints on the fabric, the stench of cologne that didn't belong in my home, it all screamed at me, but my mind refused to accept it. No, not Emily. Not my wife. I heard my own voice, flat and hollow. Say it again. Kayla's lip quivered. Dad, say it again. I demanded, sharper this time, my voice cracking under the weight of it. She clenched her jaw, her eyes flashing with both fear and pity. I saw her. With him. At the bar. It wasn't just drinks with the girls. She was all over some guy. My breath caught. You're mistaken. Maybe it wasn't. Don't. Her voice broke, tears welling. Don't do that thing where you pretend it's not happening. I know what I saw. The rag I'd been holding slipped from my hand, falling to the floor with a wet plop. My pulse pounded in my ears. The bathroom felt too small, the walls closing in on me. I turned my head slowly, almost afraid of what I'd see. Emily was sprawled half on the couch just outside the bathroom doorway, her phone clutched tight to her chest like a shield. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smeared, but she was grinning faintly, lost in some drunken haze. I croaked, stepping toward her. Tell me she's lying. Tell me. She stirred, giggled, and rolled her head lazily toward me. He was funny, she mumbled, words slurred. Kept buying me drinks. Couldn't say no, huh? Big strong arms, my blood turned to ice. Emily, I snapped, louder this time. Wake up. She cracked one eye open, unfocused. Oh, relax, you're always so serious. Then she snorted, covering her mouth with her hand as though she'd just shared a private joke. Girls' night, babe. Just a little fun. Don't be jealous. Kayla made a sound behind me, a choked mix of anger and heartbreak. I spun back to her, my voice ragged. What exactly did you see? Kayla's hands trembled, gripping the dress like she wanted to rip it in half. I didn't want to tell you. I didn't. But when she started stumbling and I had to drag her home, I couldn't pretend anymore. Dad, she was dancing on him, grinding on him. His hands were all over her. She let him. The words hit harder than any punch I'd ever taken. My chest caved in, air refusing to fill my lungs. No, I whispered, shaking my head. Not Emily. Not after everything. Not after. Kayla's voice softened. I'm sorry. I know it's sick, but that's what happened. I pressed my palms to my temples, squeezing my eyes shut, trying to force the images out. But my daughter's voice painted them anyway. Emily pressed against another man, laughing, kissing, inviting. Not the wife I thought I knew. Not the woman I'd built my life with. From the couch, Emily giggled again, murmuring, "Shh, don't tell him. Our secret." I snapped my head toward her, fury boiling up. Secret. My voice thundered in the small space. You call this a secret? She flinched slightly at the volume, but then collapsed back in her drunken stupor, muttering incoherently. Kayla's shoulders shook. She turned away, wiping her face with the back of her hand. I staggered backward into the bathroom, clutching the sink for balance. The reflection staring back at me in the mirror was unrecognizable. Wild eyes, clenched jaw, face drained of color. How many years had I worked, sacrificed, carried the weight, believing I was protecting something real? How many nights had I trusted her words, ignored the red flags, told myself she's just stressed? All eyes. My chest heaved. Anger surged, hot and bitter, colliding with the cold wall of betrayal. My mind spun between images of her laughing with another man and memories of our early days, her smile, her vows, her promises. It was like watching two movies at once. The past we'd built and the present she'd destroyed. I turned on Kayla again, desperate, clinging to one last thread of denial. You're sure? You're absolutely sure it was her? Her voice cracked, but it was steady. Dad, I was standing right there. I saw her. I wish I hadn't, but I did. I wanted to scream, to break something, to shake Emily awake and force her to answer. But instead, silence swallowed me. A crushing silence that filled my lungs and pressed against my ribs until I couldn't stand it anymore. I grabbed a rag from the floor and hurled it into the sink. The clatter of metal tools against porcelain echoed like gunfire in the tight space. Emily stirred again, giggling faintly. Don't be mad. Just a little fun. Her words are the nail in the coffin. I stormed past her, my boots thudding against the hardwood. Kayla called after me, Dad, but I couldn't stop. Not in that moment. The house blurred around me as I moved, my world collapsing piece by piece with every step. Chapter 6. Confrontation in Pieces. The morning light spilled into the kitchen like an intruder, too bright, too revealing. I sat at the table, both hands wrapped tight around a mug of coffee that had long gone cold. My stomach churned, my head throbbed, though I hadn't touched a drop the night before. I hadn't slept. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, the images returned. Emily's drunken mutterings, Kayla's broken voice, the stains on that damn dress. The sound of bare feet against the hardwood broke the silence. Emily shuffled in, hair tangled, eyes puffy, one hand pressed her temple. She was still in the same crumpled dress from the night before, though she'd thrown a robe over it. The smell of stale alcohol clung to her like smoke after a fire. She squinted at me, then at the untouched breakfast I'd made, scrambled eggs, toast, bacon, all going cold. God, why are you sitting there like some statue? She muttered, her voice hoarse. I didn't answer, just studied her. She rolled her eyes, heading straight for the fridge, pulling out a bottle of water. Ugh, my head is splitting. Don't even start with your little lecture, okay? I don't have the energy. That was it. The switch flipped. Emily, I said, my voice low, steady. Kayla told me what she saw last night. Her movements froze for half a second before she twisted the cap off the water bottle and took a long sip. She didn't meet my eyes. Oh, here we go. Don't play games with me, I snapped. She saw you. With him. With some guy at the bar. Emily let out a short laugh, sharp and mocking. And you just going to take her word for it? She's a kid. Probably misread the situation. She's not a kid, I fired back. She's grown enough to know what she saw. And I heard you myself, drunk out of your mind, mumbling about his big, strong arms. Don't insult me by pretending it didn't happen. Finally, she turned, leaning against the counter with her arms crossed. The smirk spreading across her face was like a knife twisting in my gut. So what if I had a little fun? You think being chained to this boring handyman life is enough for me forever? Maybe I wanted to feel alive for one night. My chair screeched against the floor as I stood. Alive? You call humiliating me and betraying our family feeling alive? She shrugged, sipping her water. Oh, spare me the drama. You fix pipes, you pay bills, you sit in this house like some glorified maintenance man. Do you have any idea how boring you are? God, sometimes I feel like I'm married to drywall. The word stung, but I held my ground. Boring? You want to talk about boring? Try holding this family together while you're out parading yourself like some college girl who doesn't know better. Try raising a daughter who had to drag her mother home drunk in the middle of the night. Emily snorted. Oh, don't you dare turn Kayla into your little ally. She doesn't know half of what it's like being married to you. Always tired, always fixing something, never fun. You think loyalty makes you a saint? No, it makes you predictable. Dull. My hands clenched into fists. Loyalty is what kept this house standing. Loyalty is why you even have the luxury of a roof over your head while you sneak around. Don't you dare spit on that. God, listen to you. She mocked, rolling her eyes. The wounded hero act. Poor husband, working so hard, never appreciated. Maybe if you paid a little more attention to me instead of your wrenches and pipes, I wouldn't need to find excitement elsewhere. I froze, staring at her, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. So you admit it. Emily's smirk faltered for a split second, but then she lifted her chin. I admit I deserve better than living with someone who thinks a good night is falling asleep in front of the TV with grease still on his hands. That's not living. That's existing. Mom. The voice came from the doorway. Kayla stood there, arms crossed, face pale but determined. She looked at her mother with a mixture of disappointment and disgust. Stop it. Stop acting like he's the problem. Emily blinked, caught off guard. Kayla, sweetie, you don't understand. No, I understand perfectly, Kayla cut in, her voice trembling but fierce. I was there. I saw you. I saw how you acted with that guy, like Dad didn't even exist. You think that's exciting? That's disgusting. Emily's lips parted, but no words came out. Kayla stepped closer, her eyes burning. You always tell me about loyalty, about respect. You drilled that into me growing up. And then you do this? To him? To us? Emily's defensiveness cracked, her smirk faltering under the weight of her daughter's voice. But pride snapped her back. She tossed her hair and muttered, You'll understand when you're older. Marriage is complicated. Kayla's voice rose. No, it's not complicated. You don't cheat on the person who gave you everything. That's not complicated. That's just wrong. I swallowed hard, the words slicing me open and stitching me together all at once. My daughter, the one person I thought might crumble, was standing taller than either of us. Emily looked between us, her face hardening, but I caught the flicker of guilt in her eyes. She masked it quickly with arrogance. Fine. You both want to gang up on me? Go ahead. But don't pretend like either of you understand what it's like to feel trapped in this boring life. My voice broke through low and final. Boring is a hell of a lot better than betraying the people who love you. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. The three of us stood locked in a standoff, me trembling with rage, Kayla seething with hurt, Emily clinging to her arrogance like it was armor. But for the first time, the betrayal wasn't a whisper in the dark or a suspicion in my chest. It was out in the open, undeniable, and nothing would ever be the same again. Chapter 7, The Breaking Point. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. The ceiling above our bed stared down at me like a silent judge, and every time I closed my eyes, the memories replayed, the smirk on Emily's face, her mocking tone, Kayla's trembling voice when she stood up to her mother. My mind twisted between rage and heartbreak, looping like some broken record I couldn't turn off. The woman lying beside me wasn't the same one I had married. She wasn't the bright-eyed girl who used to sit cross-legged on our old apartment floor. laughing as we ate cheap Chinese food straight from the carton. She wasn't the young wife who once told me, "As long as we've got each other, we've got everything." Now she was someone else, someone arrogant, someone cruel, someone who had looked me in the eye and said cheating was fun. I turned my head to look at her. She was asleep, one arm draped lazily across the bed, her breathing heavy from last night's drinking. Her phone sat clutched near her pillow, like a secret she couldn't afford to let go of. Even in sleep, she guarded it more closely than she guarded me. My chest tightened. 20 years. 20 damn years of loyalty, of backbreaking work, of fixing every leak, paying every bill, building a life brick by brick. And for what? So she could sneer at me for being boring? So she could chase some fleeting thrill in the arms of another man? My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. By the time the morning sun streamed in, I was already dressed, already downstairs, already choking down coffee I couldn't taste. The sound of footsteps on the stairs made my pulse spike. Emily walked in, her robe tied loose, her hair brushed back as if nothing had happened. She poured herself coffee, humming faintly. The casualness of it infuriated me. "You sleep well?" I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. She gave me a look, half amused, half irritated. "As well as anyone can with you tossing and turning all night. Honestly, you've got to learn to let things go." "Let things go," I repeated, setting my mug down with a thud. "You cheat on me, humiliate me in front of our daughter, and you think I should just let it go?" Emily sighed dramatically, leaning against the counter. "God, you're so dramatic. You act like I murdered someone. People cheat, John. It happens. It doesn't have to be the end of the world." Her words hit like a hammer. My hands trembled under the table. "Normal? You call betrayal normal?" "Yes," she said flatly, taking a sip of coffee. "Look around. Half the women at book club talk about their flings like it's nothing. Men do it too. It's not 1950 anymore. You think monogamy is some sacred bond? Newsflash, it's not. It's just an expectation. And expectations can be suffocating." Her arrogance burned hotter than fire. "So I was suffocating you?" She shrugged. "You were predictable. Always the same. Work, dinner, TV, sleep. You never surprised me anymore. I wanted to feel like a woman again, not just some housewife stuck in a rut." I pushed back from the table, standing so fast the chair scraped against the floor. "You wanted to feel like a woman again? What do you think I've been breaking my back for all these years? Every busted knuckle, every late night on the job, every damn bill paid on time. Wasn't that me showing you I loved you? Wasn't that me fighting for this family?" Emily's lip curled in a smirk. "You call that love? Fixing pipes? Bringing home paychecks? That's just existing, John. It's survival, not passion. You confuse duty with love. And frankly, duty is boring. Boring." There was again. That word she wielded like a dagger. I slammed my fist against the counter, the sound echoing through the kitchen. "I gave you my loyalty. I gave you my life. And you throw it back in my face like it means nothing?" For a moment, silence hung between us. Then she laughed a cold, bitter laugh. "You make it sound so noble, like you're some martyr. But let's be real, John. You needed me as much as I needed you. You needed someone to come home to, someone to cook your dinners, someone to raise your kid while you played handyman hero. Don't act like you were the only one sacrificing." Her words sliced deep, but I refused to flinch. My voice was low, shaking with fury. "You think cooking a few dinners compares to shattering your husband's trust? You think standing by while I killed myself, working, justifies sneaking around behind my back?" Emily's eyes flashed. "I didn't sneak. I lived. For once I lived. And I'm not going to apologize for wanting more than your boring, blue-collar fairy tale." Something inside me cracked then, not with sound, not with movement, but with a silence so sharp it hollowed me out. Flashbacks blurred before my eyes. Our wedding day, when her hand shook as she slipped the ring on my finger and whispered, "Forever." The night Kayla was born, when she clutched my hand with tears in her eyes and told me she had never felt so complete. The little moments, our first road trip, the nights we stayed up until dawn talking about dreams. Where had all of that gone? How had we gone from promises of forever to this? Her standing in my kitchen, justifying betrayal as living? I stared at her, hardly recognizing the woman in front of me. You know what's sad, Emily? I said quietly, almost to myself. It's not that you cheated. It's not even that you lied. It's that you convince yourself this arrogance, this cruelty is freedom. You used to believe in us. You used to fight for us. Now you mock the very things that held this family together. Her face hardened. Don't lecture me, John. I'm not some scared little girl anymore. I don't need you telling me what's right or wrong. I make my own choices. I own them. And if you can't handle that, maybe you're weaker than I thought. Weaker. Another knife. My chest heaved, my fist trembling. But beneath the anger was something deeper, something more devastating. Clarity. For years, I had believed love was enough. That loyalty, hard work, and sacrifice would keep us solid. But standing here, watching her sneer at everything I'd built, I finally understood. Love wasn't enough, not if it was one-sided. I looked at her for what felt like the last time, really looked at her. The woman I married was gone, replaced by someone I didn't know, someone I couldn't trust, someone who saw betrayal as nothing more than normal. The breaking point wasn't a shout, or a slam of the door, or some grand declaration. It was the quiet realization that the marriage I had been fighting for no longer existed, and the woman sipping coffee across from me wasn't my wife anymore. Chapter 8, Exposure. I didn't set out to go through her phone. For 20 years, I'd respected boundaries, trusted her, never once felt the need to pry. But after everything she'd said, the arrogance, the mockery, I couldn't stop my hands from moving. Emily was upstairs taking a shower, humming to herself as if she didn't have a care in the world. The sound of running water muffled my steps as I entered our bedroom. Her phone lay on the nightstand, plugged into the charger. Screen down as always. Like it had secrets she didn't want the world to see. My palms sweated. My heart thumped in my chest like I was about to commit a crime. For a moment, I hesitated. This wasn't me. I wasn't the snooping husband. But then I remembered her smirk, her words. So what if I had fun? I picked up the phone. The lock screen stared back. My fingers hovered uncertainly. For digits. What would she use? A date? A pattern? Instinctively, I tried our anniversary. Wrong. I tried Kayla's birthday. Wrong again. Then, out of some bitter impulse, I punched in 6969. The phone unlocked. My stomach dropped. The first thing I saw were notifications, messages stacked unanswered. A group chat titled Girls Night Fired. Photos, emojis, laughing faces. My thumb hesitated, then scrolled. The images hit me like blows. Emily in a bar, holding cocktails, pressed against men I didn't recognize. Videos of her grinding against one of them, laughing into the camera. A selfie of her kissing a man's cheek, her lipstick smeared. I couldn't breathe. I scrolled further. Private messages. Explicit texts. Last night was amazing. When's round 2? Another man wrote. Still can't believe you're married. Damn smiling face with horns. Another message read. And then videos. I opened one. My vision blurred. Rage and nausea churning inside me. There was no denying it. No pretending this was innocent. I dropped the phone on the bed like it had burned me. Kayla's voice startled me from the doorway. Dad. I spun around, panicked, trying to shield the phone. But her eyes were sharp, too knowing for her age. You saw, didn't you? She asked, her voice low, steady. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Kayla, I tried to tell you, she whispered, tears gathering. I tried, but you wouldn't believe it until you saw it yourself. Her voice cracked on the last words, and something inside me shattered again, not just at my wife's betrayal, but the pain it had inflicted on my daughter. I reached for her, but she stepped back, hugging her arms around herself. She made me feel crazy, Dad, like I was imagining things, like I was betraying her just for speaking up. But I knew. I saw it. Her words trembled with both vindication and heartbreak. I'm sorry, I whispered. I should have listened sooner. Kayla wiped her face, sniffed, and nodded. So what do we do now? Before I could answer, footsteps echoed down the hall. Emily entered, towel around her hair, robe cinched tight, looking refreshed and smug. She stopped dead when she saw me holding her phone. What the hell are you doing? She snapped, rushing forward, snatching it from my hand. I know, I said, my voice like steel. I've seen everything. Her face flickered, shock, then anger, then something that looked disturbingly like amusement. "So what?" she shot back, her chin tilted. "You went snooping? Congrats. You're pathetic and predictable." Kayla stepped forward, her voice fierce. "Stop lying, Mom. Just stop. He saw it, I saw it. Everyone's going to know. You can't hide anymore." Emily's gaze snapped to her daughter, narrowing. "You think you could talk to me like that? I'm your mother." Kayla's eyes filled with fire. "A mother doesn't do what you did." The room went deathly silent. That evening, I didn't plan to tell anyone, but the opportunity came faster than I expected. Emily's parents were hosting a small family dinner, an anniversary celebration they'd been planning for weeks. Emily insisted we still go, as if nothing had changed. I sat in the car outside their house, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles went white. Kayla sat in the back seat, arms folded, glaring out the window. Emily adjusted her lipstick in the mirror, smiling at her reflection. "Now listen," Emily said smoothly. "Tonight we're going to smile, we're going to be polite, and we're not going to make a scene." "Got it." Her arrogance made my blood boil. "Got it," she repeated, eyes darting between us. Kayla muttered, "You mean lie." Emily's jaw tightened. We walked inside. The dining room buzzed with chatter, clinking glasses, laughter. Her parents beamed, happy to see us. Her mother hugged me tightly. "John, so good to see you. You're looking tired, though. Everything all right?" Before I could answer, Emily cut in, laughing lightly. "Oh, he's just been overworked, as usual. You know John, always busy fixing something." Her mocking tone wasn't lost on me, or Kayla. Dinner began. Plates passed, toast given. Emily played her part perfectly, laughing, smiling, sipping wine like she was queen of the evening. But the phone in her hand, always in her sight, was a shadow over the table. I couldn't hold it in anymore. When her father raised his glass for a toast to love, loyalty, and 25 years together, the words split me open. Loyalty, the one thing Emily had stomped into the dirt. I stood, my chair scraping back. The room quieted. All eyes turned to me. "Funny thing about loyalty," I began, my voice rough. "Some people treat it like a promise. Others treat it like a joke." Emily's eyes widened. "John, sit down," she hissed, her voice sharp but nervous. But I didn't. I pulled my phone from my pocket where I had forwarded everything from hers earlier that afternoon. The pictures, the videos, the texts. My thumb hovered, then tapped. The screen lit up, and the room filled with gasps. Emily, in a club, grinding against strangers. Emily kissing another man. Emily laughing into a camera, her wedding ring still on her finger. The room erupted. Her mother's hands flew to her mouth. Her father's face turned pale. Emily leapt from her chair, lunging toward me. "Turn that off. How dare you?" "How dare I?" My voice thundered over hers. "How dare you stand here, smile at your parents, and toast to loyalty when you've been spitting on it for months?" Her mother sobbed. Her father's hand trembled on the table. Kayla sat rigid, tears streaming down her face, but eyes locked on me, as if silently telling me to keep going. Emily's mask cracked, panic flashing across her face. She turned toward her parents, her voice desperate. "It's not what it looks like." Kayla's voice cut her off, sharp and clear. "It's exactly what it looks like." Silence fell. The lies, the arrogance, the gaslighting, it all crumbled in that moment, right there at the family table. Emily stood frozen, her glass of wine shaking in her hand, while the weight of her betrayal crashed down around her. Chapter 9, The Fallout. The dining room had gone so quiet you could hear the clink of a fork someone nervously set down. The phone still glowed on the table. The damning video paused mid-frame. Emily stood rigid, her wine glass trembling in her hand, her lips parted like she wanted to form an excuse but couldn't find one. Her father looked shattered, staring at the phone screen as if it had personally betrayed him. Her mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Kayla sat beside me, stiff-backed, her hands clenched in her lap, face pale but resolute. Emily broke the silence first. "Oh, come on," she snapped, tossing the wine glass onto the table so hard it spilled red across the linen. "You're all acting like I committed murder. I went out. I had fun. Big deal. Everyone does it. What, you thought I was supposed to stay chained to him forever? Her words cut like a blade. Her father's jaw dropped. Emily, but she barreled forward, her voice rising, dripping with arrogance. You all think John's some saint because he fixed a roof and paid the bills? Please. He's a handyman, not a husband. He doesn't excite me. He doesn't challenge me. He barely even talks unless it's about screws and pipes. I sat there, absorbing each word, my fists tightening. My ears rang, but I forced myself to breathe. Emily turned her glare on me, smirking now, cocky. So you found some texts, some videos. Congratulations, Sherlock. But let's be real, those guys actually wanted me. They made me feel alive. What have you done for me lately? Huh? You fixed sinks, John. You fixed sinks. Her parents gasped, but she didn't stop. She was on a roll, her arrogance fueling her. You think you're humiliating me? No, you're humiliating yourself. Because this, she gestured at the phone, this just proves I can do better. And I did, over and over again. Kayla shot to her feet, tears streaking her face. Stop it. Just stop. Don't you see what you're doing? You're destroying everything. Emily laughed bitterly. Everything? Sweetheart, there's nothing to destroy. This little family fantasy was dead a long time ago. Your dad just refused to see it. Kayla looked at me, her lip trembling, her eyes begging for me to say something, anything. That was the moment I realized something deep in my gut. I was done. The years of swallowing pride, working late, fixing every problem, trusting blindly, it ended here. I stood slowly, the chair scraping back against the floor. Emily's smirk faltered when she saw the look in my eyes. You're right, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. It is dead, and you killed it. Emily blinked, thrown off by my calmness. What are you talking about? I'm talking about us. I stepped closer, lowering my voice but sharpening my words. The marriage, the vows, the trust. You didn't just break them, you spit on them. And then you stood here tonight, in front of your parents, in front of our daughter, and you mocked me for it. Her smirk returned, thin and brittle. So what, John? You're going to cry? You're going to leave? Where would you even go? I straightened, finally breathing in like a man reclaiming his own lungs. Anywhere that isn't beside you. Her eyes widened. Gasps rippled around the table. Kayla covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking, half from grief, half from relief. I've spent 20 years keeping this family together. I continued, my voice rising. I built this house with my own hands. I sacrificed my sleep, my time, my dreams. And for what? To be laughed at by the woman who was supposed to be my partner. I turned, gesturing toward the phone, still glowing on the table. Now everyone knows who you really are. Not the loving wife, not the doting daughter. Just a liar, a cheater, a fraud. Emily's arrogance cracked. Her eyes darted to her parents, who sat stunned, pale, unable to look at her. Dad, Mom, please don't listen to him. He's twisting everything. Her father slammed his palm on the table, making her flinch. Enough. Don't you dare insult our intelligence. We saw the videos, Emily. We saw the proof. And then we heard your own words. His voice cracked with fury and grief. You've disgraced this family. Emily's mouth opened, but no words came out. She staggered back a step. I picked up my jacket from the back of the chair and slipped it on, my movements calm, deliberate. Then I looked at her one last time. You wanted independence? I said coldly, you've got it. You're free. Free of me. Free of this marriage. Free of the man you thought was just a handyman. But here's the truth, Emily. I'm worth more than every man you, through yourself, have combined. Because at least I know what loyalty means. She shook her head, disbelief flickering across her face. You can't just walk away. I stared at her. Watch me. Kayla rose from her chair and walked to my side, slipping her hand into mine. Her grip was tight, desperate, but also full of strength. She looked at me with tearful eyes. I'm with you, Dad. That broke whatever last shred of control Emily had. Oh, of course you'd take his side, she spat, venom in her voice. He's poisoned you against me. Made me out to be the villain. No, Kayla snapped, her voice shaking but fierce. You did that yourself. Emily froze, silenced by her own daughter's conviction. I turned toward her parents, who looked broken but resolute. "I'll take care of Kayla. She doesn't deserve to be caught in this mess. We'll be okay." Her mother nodded weakly, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her father gave me a stiff, pained nod of respect. Emily stood there, trembling, her face a mask of disbelief and fury as she realized she'd lost everything: her marriage, her daughter, her dignity, all in the span of a single night. I walked toward the door, Kayla's hand still gripping mine, my steps heavy but unshaken. Each one felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I had thought I'd lost years ago. At the threshold, I paused and turned back once more. Emily stood surrounded by spilled wine and silence, her arrogance stripped bare. "This is the last time you'll ever get to laugh at me," I said, my voice steady as steel. And then I walked out, leaving her behind in the wreckage she created. Chapter 10: Resolution, Justice, and Redemption. The first morning after Emily left, the house felt unnervingly quiet. Too quiet. The echoes of arguments, laughter, and betrayal had finally faded, leaving behind only the soft hum of the refrigerator and the occasional drip from the sink. Kayla stirred in her room, and I could hear her moving around, tentative but determined, as if testing the waters of this new reality. I didn't rush to speak, didn't rush to comfort her. Instead, I focused on what I could control: the house, the bills, the plumbing. The familiar comfort of work grounded me, gave me a foothold in a world that had tilted violently in the last few weeks. I crouched under the bathroom sink, tools in hand, adjusting the pipes with painstaking care. Each twist of the wrench, each tightening of a bolt, felt symbolic. Fixing leaks, sealing cracks, restoring flow, I was literally and figuratively putting my life back together. The sound of water gushing through the newly tightened pipes was a small victory, proof that some things could be repaired, even after damage. Kayla peeked into the bathroom, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Dad," she said softly, "can I help?" I smiled, my first real smile in weeks. "Of course. Just grab that wrench." She leaned over, her small hands trembling slightly, and helped me twist the stubborn nut on the drain pipe. We worked side by side, wordless at first, but slowly conversation began. "Ow, how are we going to do this?" she asked eventually, glancing at me. I wiped my hands on a rag, looking at her with steady eyes. "We rebuild, one step at a time. You and me, Kayla. We don't need her to define our lives anymore." Her shoulders relaxed slightly, and a small, tentative smile appeared. "Do you think maybe we can be happy again?" I chuckled softly, the sound still rough but real. Happiness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about learning who you can trust and taking control of your own life. And yes, we'll be happy again. Over the next few weeks, life slowly began to regain a sense of rhythm. I focused on work, taking on a few extra projects that allowed me to save for a smaller, more manageable home. Kayla's schoolwork became a priority. We attended parent-teacher meetings together, cooked meals together, and even laughed again. One evening, after she had gone to bed, I sat on the porch with a beer in hand, staring out at the quiet street. The stars were sharp, the air cool and clean, and for the first time in months, I felt a sense of peace. I reflected on the chaos, the betrayal, the way Emily had tried to justify her actions as independence, as living. It was easy to see the arrogance now, the self-absorption that had blinded her to loyalty, trust, and respect. And yet, despite the pain, I didn't feel broken. I felt alive. A raw, hard-earned clarity settled in my chest. I thought about the years I had devoted to my family, the sacrifices I'd made, the long nights and early mornings, the repairs, the bills, the life I built brick by brick. None of it was wasted. Loyalty isn't a weakness, it's a foundation. And betrayal doesn't erase that. It just proves who is worthy of that loyalty and who is not. A symbolic gesture came one weekend. Kayla and I moved into a smaller home, modest but ours. I carried boxes up the stairs while she bounced around, chattering about decorating her room. In the corner of the bathroom, the old, leaky shower had been replaced with a shiny new one. I knelt to tighten the last bolt, Kayla watching curiously. "You fixing it again, Dad?" she asked, eyes wide. I smiled. "Yeah, but this time, We won't have any surprises. Everything's solid. Everything works the way it should. No leaks. No cracks. Kayla giggled. Just like us. I laughed, ruffling her hair. Exactly like us. The simple act of turning the handle, watching the water flow clean and strong, was oddly cathartic. It was a small but tangible reminder that life could be repaired. That trust, once broken, could be rebuilt carefully, deliberately, and stronger than before. Months passed. Emily's name became a memory rather than a presence. She tried contacting us once, a half-hearted attempt at apology that I ignored. Kayla and I created new routines, new traditions, new laughter. My work thrived, my confidence returned, and I felt the weight of the past lifting. I realized that the ultimate revenge wasn't exposure or confrontation. It was living well, proving that her betrayal hadn't destroyed me. Kayla and I had each other, a strong bond fortified by honesty, resilience, and the lessons of trust. One evening, we sat on the porch again, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Kayla leaned against me, her head on my shoulder. "Dad," she said softly, "do you think people like Mom ever feel bad?" I considered this, watching the sky turn shades of gold and crimson. Maybe, but it doesn't matter. What matters is the life we choose from here on. We don't need apologies or regret from people who hurt us. We just need to honor our own dignity. Kayla nodded, snuggling closer. "I like our life." I smiled, feeling the weight of the past lift even further. "Me too, kiddo. Me too." And in that moment, I understood that betrayal, while painful, could teach a man the value of self-respect. Loyalty is sacred, but it's not blind obedience. Hard work, love, and dedication mean nothing if they're given to someone unworthy. And sometimes, the only justice you need is to reclaim your own life, your own dignity, and refuse to be defined by the betrayal of others. I thought back to the broken shower, the leaky faucets, the cracked tiles I had fixed over the years. They had been metaphors all along. Small failures, reparable, moments to learn patience and precision. And now, with the new shower, the new house, and Kayla by my side, I understood. Some damage can't be undone, but it can be rebuilt, stronger, cleaner, and better than it was before. I poured myself a glass of whiskey, just a small sip, and watched Kayla chase the dog around the yard. The night air was cool, crisp, and promising. I raised my glass quietly to the stars, a silent toast to the past and the lessons it had taught me. Betrayal hurt. Loyalty demanded sacrifice. But dignity was something no one could ever steal if you refused to let them. And as I leaned back in my chair, letting the wind cool my face, I realized the truth. A man who respects himself cannot be destroyed by the lies of others. He can rebuild, rise, and walk forward into a life of his own making. I sipped my whiskey, feeling the warmth spread through me, and thought, trust is earned, betrayal is felt, and dignity is reclaimed.